here. Well, we're so happy to have you guys here. If you want, if you can, if you feel like it, please take a stand and we will sing some songs with you. I don't know what they told you. I don't know what you heard. But there's a place where the broken find hope, a love that they don't have to earn. Oh, it's a place where you've always belonged, where you're so unashamedly loved. The kingdom is open. There's room at the table for someone like you. The King has been hoping and searching for someone to show all his kindness and favor to. The kingdom is open. Are you weary and wandering? Are you tired and torn? Burned out on religion that don't look like Jesus, still searching for home? Come to a place where you always belong, where you're so unashamedly loved. The kingdom is open. There's room at the table for someone like you. The King has been hoping and searching for someone to show all his kindness and favor to. The kingdom is open. Yeah. So I say I will go. Send me out to the highways and edges, the ones at the edge. I will go. Send me out to the ones that you love, that we've always left out. I will go. Send me out to the ones who don't know they are children of God. I will go. Send me out to the hungry and broken to tell them the kingdom is open. There's room at the table for someone like you. The King has been hoping and searching for someone to show all his kindness and favor to. So I say I will go. Send me out to the highways and edges, the ones at the edge. I will go. Send me out to the ones that you love, who we've always left out. I will go. Send me out to the ones who don't know they are children of God. I will go. Send me out to the hungry and broken to tell them the kingdom is open.
Falling is easy, staying in love is hard. Hard to be honest, keep our heart open to be who we truly are, without the excuses, without the facade. There's no pretending. Here in your love, oh Lord, set me free. Oh Lord, set me free.
image I've had is starting to fade. You're patient with me, lifting the veil, oh Lord, set me free.
Oh Lord, set me free. Oh Lord, set me free. Oh Lord, set me free.
I let out the sails of my heart. Here I am, here you are. I let out the sails of my heart. Oh, here I am, here you are.
I let out the sails of my heart. Oh, here I am, here you are. I let out the sails of my heart. Oh, here I am, here you are. I let out the sails of my heart. Oh, here I am, here you are. I let out the sails of my heart. Oh, here I am, here you are.
Lord, I find you in the seeking. Lord, I find you in the doubt. And to know you is to love you, and to know so little else. I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. Oh, how I need you. will go where you shine. Break the dawn, crack the sky. Make the way bright before me. In your light I will find all I need is you. Oh, light, glorious light, I will go where you shine. Break the dawn, crack the skies. Make the way bright before me. In your light I will find all I need is you. Oh, how I need 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 you.
Well, hey, good morning. I'm Michelle, and we're so glad you're with us today, whether you're here in person or joining us online from home. When you guys walked in the auditorium, one of our amazing volunteers should have handed you guys a bulletin. Hang on to that. There's a lot of good stuff in there, and you can flip through it as we go. And if you've got kids birth through 12th grade, Family Venue is up and running right now, and they're going to have a blast. Get them checked in before you settle in. When you drop them off, you'll get a 4-digit code. Keep that handy, and if we need to grab your attention during service, that code will pop up on the screen. And if your little one needs a moment, the wiggle room is right off the lobby. You can head in there, take a breather, and still watch everything happening live. Every Thursday night, we meet up at Mother's Brewing in downtown Springfield for Bar Church. It's casual, it's fun, and it's a great way to stay connected midweek. We'll be there at 6:30 p.m., so come hang out with us. Next Level is happening right here in the auditorium after service today. It'll only take about 15 minutes or so, and it's a great chance to meet some of our team, learn a little more about who we are, and find out how you can get more involved. Whether you're brand spanking new or just looking to take a next step, we'd love to see you there. Venues Values also kicks off after service today, and it's a 4-week connection group where we dig into the 4 core values that shape everything that we do here. Childcare is available, and for questions or if you want to sign up, reach out to our Community Engagement Director, Josh Golden, at josh@thevenues.org. And if you haven't signed up yet and like to be a part of it, stick around after service and we'll get you taken care of. Want to stay in the loop? Thevenues.org is your go-to. There you can give, find a group, see what's coming up, and give us a follow on social media while you're at it. And if today is your first time here, we are so glad you came. Don't head out without stopping by the first time area in the lobby. We want to say hi, and we've got something for you. And that's a wrap for today. Go enjoy your Sunday. We love you guys. Bye.
Think back with me, if you would, to when you were a kid. And I want to ask you a question. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Anybody remember back to what that was? Anybody want to share what that is? Yeah. A fashion designer? Horse ranching? Yeah. You know what? Yeah. An archaeologist. Did anybody in here become the thing that you wanted to be when you were a kid? Did you really? That's amazing. I love it when that happened. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a pediatric podiatrist and own a shoe store. Really weird. I don't know. That's super. Okay, I shouldn't have said that out loud. That's weird. Anyway, I had kind of this thing, but obviously that's not the way that life happened. And you know, when we're kids, we are told a lot of things about if you can just kind of dream it, you can be it. Whether it's like the president of the United States, or you want to be a princess, or you want to be an NBA player, you can be any of those things. Just have that childlike thought. And then sometimes we hit reality and we're like, that doesn't seem to work out so much. You know, I think we have maybe slid too far on the side of reality right now that we stop dreaming. We stop imagining kind of a little bit of a wild life. And the song that the band is going to play here in just a second actually, I think, brings us back into a space of understanding some of the things that we actually can do. The song is called With My Own Two Hands, and it's by Ben Harper. And when it first came out, it wasn't particularly well critically acclaimed. Okay? In fact, one of the New York Times writers wrote about it when it first came out, that it sounded like what would happen if Bob Marley wrote children's songs. And they meant that as sort of a criticism, but I actually think there's something delightful about that. And it's this. I wonder what would happen if we embodied that a little bit. What if we started to imagine what it would look like in that childlike wonder if we thought about what we could do with our own two hands? And one of the ways that plays out here at the venues is that we imagine the things that we can do in our very own community. That's why when you give here at the venues, every single dollar, 100% of it, stays here in the 417, because we believe that every dollar can actually make a difference here in our area. And so while they play the song, we're going to have some volunteers come around and receive any gifts that you might have brought with you. But before they do that, I want us to just take a moment and center ourselves into this kind of space of wonder, okay? And to think about the things that we actually could do with our own two hands. I wonder what it would look like if we asked, what do we want the world to look like when we grow up? And did the thing where Jesus talks about having a childlike faith. So if you're inclined, what I'd like to give you the opportunity to right now is to enter that space of wonder. If you want to close your eyes, that's fine. If you want to leave them open, that's fine. If you want to leave your feet planted on the floor, that's fine, or your legs crossed, or whatever you want to do is fine. Get to a comfortable space. And what I want us to do is just imagine that. I want us to imagine what it looks like to make a difference to the people that are directly in front of you and directly around you. To imagine that wild reality, that almost childlike space. When we think about the world around us, it's easy to be overwhelmed by the bad news. It's hard to believe sometimes that there are better days ahead. May we, as a people, as individuals, may I imagine a world where I can make a difference with my own two hands. And may it be so. May it be so that we have a childlike faith in the divine, the love that makes all things possible. Amen.
I can change the world with my own two hands, make a better place. With my own two hands, make a kinder place. Oh, with my own two hands, with my own two hands, with my own two hands. I can clean up the earth with my own two hands. I can reach out to you with my own two hands. I can help all of you. Oh, with my own two hands, with my own two hands, with my own two hands. I'm gonna make it a brighter place. I'm gonna make it a safer place. I'm gonna help the human race with my own two hands. you with my own two hands. Oh, but you've got to use your own two hands. Use your own two hands. With my own two hands. I'm gonna make it a brighter place. I'm gonna make it a safer place. I'm gonna help the human race with my own two hands. Thank you, guys. We love you so much.
So, when I was in preacher school, there was this arrangement between SBU and a lot of the other Southern Baptist churches around Missouri, where they would encourage students who were learning to be pastors to go around to just random churches on Sunday morning without having ever met anyone in the church, without vetting what the teaching was going to be about. And we would just, as students, get the opportunity to preach in front of people that had never seen us and that we had never met before. And I'll be honest with you, we had no idea when we were going there what we were getting into. Was it going to be a big church or a small church? Was it going to have like really contemporary music or old music, or what was that going to look like? But the one thing I did know for sure was this, that SBU paid me mileage to drive there. And as a poor college kid, all I wanted to do was to drive as far away as possible because I drove a really fuel-efficient car. But our professors would always tell us 3 things to make sure of before you did that. Number 1, since you don't know them, always wear a suit and tie. I did not learn that. Number 2, always talk about Jesus instead of some obscure passage. And number 3, be prepared for anything because you never know what's going to happen. On my very first outing where I was going to do this, I went to a very, very small country Southern Baptist church. There might have been a total of 30 people there. And I was super, super nervous. You see, while I had preached to my preaching classes, and I had preached at my dad's church because my dad was a pastor, and so I actually preached my very first sermon on a Sunday morning when I was 13. That's a little bit weird. But I'd never preached in front of people I didn't know. And so that morning, I got up, I grabbed my notes, and I went up behind the pulpit and started talking. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what I preached about. But one thing I do remember is that about 5 minutes into the teaching, I started hearing this blood-curdling cry from the back row. And it just kept going on and on. And the issue was that out of the 30 people that were there, there was a high school student who had one of those fax fake babies. And I guess it was feeding time. And that thing just would not shut up. And as much as the student tried to fix it, and like it just kept crying louder and louder. And ultimately, I was faced with a choice. Was I just going to ignore it? Was I going to get super frustrated? Or was I going to say something in that moment? And so what I did is I looked her dead in the eye and I said, you know what? I'm going to have a great story to tell my dad when I get home. You see, my dad has been a pastor for 25 years, and he has seen people go through all kinds of emotions: joy, laughter, crying, snoring. But I don't think he's ever made a fake baby cry before, so I win. She laughed, and I laughed, and we went on with it. But you know what? I think all of us, if we're honest with ourselves, experience moments like that, right? We experience those moments that don't go the way that we had planned them. We wake up and we have a flat tire and we have a meeting before work that we need to get to, and we've got to try to figure that out. We have a sick kid the day of an important event. Or we forget and schedule ourselves for something really important on our anniversary. I'm sorry, Morgan, that I've ever done that. But we have to figure out how to move through those life interruptions. So, fun fact, the sermon this morning is literally about interruptions. And this week I experienced one. I wasn't actually supposed to preach today, but found out at kind of the last minute that things had changed. And I'll just leave it at that. But you know, sometimes those interruptions are really good. And sometimes they're really bad, aren't they? For example, last Wednesday was Earth Day, and several environmental groups like the Katmai National Park chose to use their social media, their Instagram, to provide an interruption to scrolling, to show beautiful videos of bears catching fish and just things like that. Sometimes we need those beauty interruptions, don't we? The things that like catch our eye, that make us remember that there is beauty in this world. And I think that's such an interesting juxtaposition to me with all of the other interruptions that we may be experiencing. I read this week that the International Energy Agency says that this conflict with Iran is causing the largest interruption of oil in history. And it's not just an interruption that affects gas prices, but the Middle East was starting to develop a really good hydrogen hub, which was supposed to help develop clean energy. And so not only is it creating more dirty energy, but it's also preventing transitions to cleaner energy sources. But you know, while we can't control whether or not we are going to be interrupted, there is a chance that we can control how we respond to interruptions. And that's actually the big idea that I want to talk about today, the thing that I want us to be thinking about as we interact with these things that happen that we can't control. And that thought is this: in a world of interruptions, we can choose to show love in how we respond. That in a world of interruptions, we can choose to show love in how we respond. As we get into this conversation this morning, I want you to take a second and think about a time, if you don't mind, where you have been interrupted. Maybe like have a very specific, and I don't mean like a huge interruption. I don't mean like COVID-style interruptions, which was like 6 years ago right now, right? Remember how that just interrupted everything? But think of a moment where you had an actual interruption, where something did not go the way that you were anticipating it, and it changed the course. My guess is that if you think about that moment, you may not even be able to remember exactly what you were planning to do before that interruption happened. All you remember is the interruption and what happened after that. In fact, Dr. Daniel Schneider and Bianca Zikarik from the Department of Ergonomics at the University of Dortmund in Germany published a study, and what they said was super interesting. They said it was shown that interruptions and distractions had different effects on working memory. After an interruption, participants made significantly more mistakes than without an interruption. But if they're just distracted, that was not the case. In other words, I want to kind of draw this distinction this morning between the little distractions that we encounter all the time and honest interruptions. We might get distracted because our phone rings or buzzes in our pocket. And we're like, but we can probably move on from that. We hear a noise upstairs and we just move on with it. But interruptions cause us often to not be able to remember where we were just before that. And so this morning, I just want to take a second and note that if you're in a space right now where life just seems to have interrupted, that right now you are in a space around people who love you. That if right now, if life is not going the way that you thought it would happen, you thought things were going to go one way, and then suddenly there's this break, and you're like, what, huh? Know that there are people here who love you dearly. And that it's those interruptions in life that I think sometimes cause the fissure that we can find truth and love and peace in the middle of, that we can figure out together. So today, we're going to be looking at this story about when Jesus and his closest followers were interrupted. And I hope for us that maybe by looking at this, we can figure out ways that we can deal with the interruptions that we face, the things that shake us, the things that move us in a way that we were not anticipating. The story that we're going to be looking at shows up in all of the first 3 books of the Christian New Testament, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. They're called the Synoptic Gospels. It's kind of like, it's almost as if Mark wrote it and then the other 2 just copied it. But it's this story that I honestly believe might be, and this is a big push, the weirdest story in the Bible. It's a story that is called the Transfiguration, which is a word you probably never heard outside of a church. And it's this story that if I wrote it or I read it in a sci-fi novel, I might be like, that's a little bit weird. That's a little too much. Sure, talking elephants, fine. But this, I don't know. And so I want us to enter into this story, understanding, first of all, that this story is going to sound really, really absurd. But that as we enter into the story, there is something in there that I think can help us walk through it. So today we're going to mostly read it out of the Matthew version. Like I said, it shows up in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. But if we look at the Matthew version, it shows up in chapter 17, and it starts off this way. That Jesus took Peter and the brother James and John and led them up a high mountain, and his appearance changed from the inside out. Right before their eyes, sunlight poured from his face. His clothes were filled with light. Then they realized that Moses and Elijah were there in deep conversation with him. Weird story. Let me just be very honest with you before we get into that about how weird this story is, okay? So Jesus is walking up this mountain with Peter, James, and John, and then suddenly he turns into light, and then he is surrounded by 2 dead guys' ghosts. That's a weird story. But I think there's some handles here that we can take in this to kind of give you some understanding about what's happening, who these characters are. First of all, these 3 folks, Peter, James, and John, many Bible scholars would actually say that these were probably, out of all of Jesus' followers, these were probably his closest 3 friends. And I'll be honest with you, it's kind of weird to me to think about the idea that Jesus had closest friends. You know, this whole like Jesus loves everybody. But Jesus had people that, you know, were kind of his emergency contacts. When life got interrupted, these would have been the people that he called. Okay, Peter, James, and John, they were his tightest friends. They were the people who were there in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And they would have been the people that knew Jesus probably most intimately. The second thing that I want to let you know about this is this whole thing about Moses and Elijah. In the Hebrew scripture, Moses and Elijah are kind of like the 2 central characters in what we would call the Old Testament. Moses represents the notion of the law, which is a big part of what we call the Old Testament. Elijah represents the prophets, okay? And both of these folks had passed away centuries before this story happens. And so what they're kind of seeing is this space where Jesus and the totality of the Hebrew scripture are kind of all there together talking. Weird. And the third thing is this. We have no idea how the story happened. This story doesn't make any sense. And honestly, one of the things that's weird about it is this. Nobody who was there wrote any of it down. All 3 places where it shows up, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, none of those are the characters in this story. So we don't know if it happened, how it happened, if it was just a story that people told thereafter. But what we do know is that Mark and then Matthew and Luke decided in a time when it wasn't easy to write out letters, that all three of them thought this really weird story was worth writing down. It was something that had been this narrative that people just kept sharing over and over. And they were like, did you hear the story about Jesus, Peter, James, and John, and how Jesus turned into light? They thought it was important enough to actually write it down. We know that whatever happened was shocking enough that they would talk about it for decades thereafter. And the story continues in verse 4 saying this, that Peter broke in and said, Master, this is a great moment. What would you think if I built 3 memorials here on this mountain, one for you, one for Moses, and one from Elijah? Or in Mark's version, it says this, that Peter burst out to Jesus, Master, it is wonderful for us to be here. Shall we put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah? So this thing is happening, and then Peter's like, you know what we need to do? Tents. Yeah, we need tents. But Mark goes on to say here that the reason that Peter did this was because he was really scared. Well, yeah, of course he was, right? Walking up a mountain, that can be scary if you're not a hiker. Get up to the top of the mountain, the guy that you've been following around for the last 3 years, who's this teacher guy that you've literally sold everything you own to follow after, turns into light and is talking to ghosts. That's scary. My obvious response is, let's build tents. But I think that there is a reality here that many of us have these moments when life gets scary and we do almost exactly what Peter did. And that's this. Oftentimes, when there are interruptions, our first instinct is just to say something, not to think about if we have something to say. There are lots of times that there are major interruptions. You find out that you have a friend who lost a loved one, and we rush into trying to comfort people out of the best of intentions, and we just want to say something as if us saying something right then can make it better. When realistically, your presence is what they are often looking for. And I think it's in this that we get kind of the first idea that can help us understand how we respond to interruptions, and that's this, that we bring old stories into new moments, and sometimes they hold us back, right? We bring old stories into new moments, and sometimes they hold us back. When Peter interrupts here, I think it's good to note not just why he interrupted, but also what he wants to say. He says here, look, Jesus, this light thing is cool and all, and the 2 other Old Testament folks, that's awesome, but do you think maybe I should build a tent for you? It's important to know why he would say this. You see, remember, Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew. He was a Jewish teacher, like a rabbi, and Peter was also a Jew. And he would have been following this rabbi, and when this thing happened, he would have immediately thought back to the text that he would have been brought up with. And in the Old Testament, the stories that he would have learned from the very beginning in the book of Exodus, there's this verse in Exodus chapter 25 where God says to God's people, look, the way that you worship God is that you build a tent, a tabernacle, so that God can come dwell there. And that's where you worship God, where this tent is. And so when this thing had been happening, Peter's first instinct was to go back to the things that he had learned when he was a kid and think, you know what, this awesome thing is happening. I should build a tent so I can worship here. Because God is, something supernatural is happening here. Peter's not trying to be bad. He's just doing what he knows. But sometimes it can be damaging if we don't recognize it. In psychology, there's this concept called family of origin, or FOO. Morgan and I will often say, you're just acting out of your FOO right now. It's the stuff that you grew up with. And a lot of us have those types of past. You know, like if your family was super enmeshed, like every single person in every part of your family knew every single thing that was going on even way before Facebook started, odds are likely that you're going to do the same thing because that's the way that you were brought up. If your family was really into faith or really into athletics or really into education, there's a pretty good likelihood that you're going to kind of think that that's how families operate. That's how that system works, is that everybody just goes to church or everybody just goes to college or whatever it is. In much the same way, many of us come into religious spaces with a slightly different type of food, but one that is just as impactful. And it's not our family of origin, it's our faith of origin. We bring stuff that we had in the past into all sorts of the present, how we're engaging in our current faith journey. And sometimes it's awesome, right? I had a great experience growing up in church. I went to this little small church, and we had one musician there. Her name was Florence. And church started whenever Florence got there. Yeah, it was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but if she got there at 10:06 after she'd milked the cows, that's what time we started church. And Florence played the piano. And she played every song in the same speed. It didn't matter if it was Amazing Grace or a new hit by Eminem, it would have been in the exact same speed. And Florence loved me dearly. And she taught the same elementary Sunday school class for 53 years. And I knew that she loved me. That's my faith of origin. But I know that other people bring faiths of origins that aren't as positive, that have a lot of trauma. They bring a background and baggage. And the thing is, the reason that you are good and we're better together is that we can learn from each other through those spaces. Regardless of what food looks like, whether it's faith of origin or family of origin, when things get stressful, we often turn to the things that we grew up with. There's a reason that even people who don't believe in any kind of a higher power sometimes will pray, even if you're not sure what that looks like, because it's something that you grew up with as a child. Some of us, by the way, as we think about this series that we've been talking about our global neighbor and our celebration of Earth Day, bring the same piece in the way that we think about the world around us. We were handed this idea and never thought critically about it. And so when things get stressful, because we get overwhelmed, because of climate anxiety, because of supply chain disruptions, or just the sheer scale of it, we revert back to the old story of saying, it's not my problem. Faith has nothing to do to interact with the environment around us. And that's why it's so important that we think about how we love our neighbors by caring for the earth that they inhabit. And you see, that's exactly what happens to Peter in this story. Peter is faced with a situation that he doesn't understand. So he reverts back to his faith of origin and starts thinking, like, I should build a tent here because there's something special, something sacred, something holy happening. And that takes us actually to the second part of this text that I think is super interesting. In Matthew 17, 5-9, it says that when Peter was talking, a bright cloud covered them, and a voice came from the cloud and said, "This is my son whom I love and I'm very pleased with. Listen to him." And when his followers heard this voice, they were so frightened that they fell to the ground. But Jesus went to them and touched them and said, "Stand up, don't be afraid." And when they looked up, they saw Jesus was now alone. And as they were coming down the mountain, Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, which apparently didn't work since 3 people wrote about it, about what they had seen until the Son of Man had been risen from the dead. Okay? I really like, by the way, people oftentimes ask me, like, okay, hey, Chris, I'm trying to figure out, like, theology stuff. Is there a version of the Bible that you recommend? Yeah, there are some that I would be happy to kind of walk you through to figure out what's going to work best for you. But there is this paraphrase called The Message, and I kind of like the way it talks about this verse. It says, while Peter was going on like this babbling, Peter was just like, "Hey, Lord, can we build you a tent or whatever?" This thing happened. And what happens here is we need to remember that the people who would have read this originally weren't reading it on a phone screen. They weren't reading it on a computer screen. They weren't reading it in a Bible. They were being read it. They would have heard this. And they would have probably been read the totality of the book of Matthew at the same time. And so when they would have heard this, it would have flashed back to earlier in Matthew when Jesus is being baptized. And then God says, "This is my son in whom I'm pleased." So it's kind of a circular space there. But as soon as that happens, Jesus comes to them and does this thing, not the religious thing, but the presence thing. Jesus comes and says, "It's okay. It's just here. It's just now. There's no glow happening. There's no weird prophets of old. There's none of the stuff that Peter wanted to make a building around. And at that point, Jesus tells them not to tell other people about it. And that concept is actually the second major piece that I want to talk about today, how we understand this. And honestly, this is one of those things that I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to have to ask you to kind of go with me on this, because this is a pretty controversial sentence, and that's this. Following the way of Jesus is more important than just admiring Jesus. Following the way of Jesus is more important than just admiring Jesus. In my view, this would have been seen as blasphemy, by the way. I know this is controversial, but if we listen to the words of Jesus, I think we might come to this conclusion. I honestly believe, and I could be wrong about this, by the way, y'all, but I truly believe that Jesus was honestly much more concerned with us following the way of love than he was that we were a fan of Jesus. Okay? I am a huge fan of the show Survivor. Okay? Some of you know that. You're like, okay, shut up, Chris. But you know what that doesn't mean? It doesn't mean that I strip down to basically being naked, I go without eating for nearly a month, and then I become friends with people so I can backstab them. It doesn't mean that. That's what it would mean to follow Survivor. Instead, I am a fan of Survivor. I enjoy it. I didn't like who got voted off this week, by the way. But I am a fan of the show Survivor. But if I truly followed it, there would be a difference in the way that my life looked. On the flip side of that, there are several times where Jesus tells his followers after he's done some kind of a miracle, look, don't tell anybody I did this. And that used to really bug me out. I was like, why in the world would Jesus say things like that? You know, I used to think it was maybe just something about Jesus being humble, or maybe about the fact that the biblical writers misunderstood something. But maybe there's something about Jesus that he didn't care so much about who got the attention as he cared for the fact that people were cared for. Yeah. It's kind of like this phrase that often gets attributed to Harry S. Truman, right? That it's amazing what you can accomplish if you do not care who gets the credit. The most amazing thing about that sentence, probably not said by Harry S. Truman. The credit actually doesn't go to him. It actually goes to a Jesuit priest by the name of Father Strickland. And we have no idea about anything else that he wrote or even what he looks like. But he was probably the first one that said this sentence that has been attributed to leaders and presidents around the world. I think it's ironic that the quotation about not caring who gets the credit goes to someone who never got credit for it. When we are doing our best work here at the venues, that's exactly who we are. Whether it's the anonymous donor who during the pandemic chose to sign over their stimulus check so that we could care for unsheltered people in a time where people were losing their jobs, said, I never want to be told about that. Whether it is the way that our safe parking program here at the venues, by the way, where we have dozens of people who have the opportunity to not freeze or not be in problematic heat spaces or not be kicked out of parking lots at 2 o'clock in the morning and trying to figure out how they're going to stay asleep. They get to stay here. And most of us will never see those folks because of the volunteer work that so many people do to make that happen, or the way that so many people volunteer here at the venues on Thursday nights and Friday mornings, 52 weeks a year, to make sure that our unsheltered friends, that our hungry friends, never go without a meal. And people don't ask credit for it. They just see that there's a need and they're like, that is something that needs to happen. I'll be honest with you. I think that maybe that is living the path of Jesus more than it's just admiring him. And I think that's actually exactly what Jesus was wanting here. Which brings me to the end of this story in Matthew. You see, when Peter, James, and John and Jesus were on their way down, they were at the bottom of this mountain, and they run into this guy with a sick kid. I'm just going to read the rest of it to you. It says this, that when they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. Lord, have mercy on my son, he said. He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire, into the water. I brought him to you, or to your disciples, but they couldn't heal him. Bring the boy to me. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. The transfiguration story is weird. This story also often is misunderstood because we need to remember that at this time, at the time that it was written in the first century CE, we did not have the same medical knowledge that we have now. Realistically, they were trying to explain what was going on, but the truth is this boy wasn't demon possessed. He probably had epilepsy, right? Which, by the way, is not demonic. It's a thing that happens. And I think there's been a lot of stigmatization that we have on people who have physical or mental disabilities because we think that they're demon possessed. So let's just get rid of that, right? The Bible is not a science book. It's a book that tells us how we deal with interruptions. It's a book that tells us about faith. And so just because they had an understanding of science that was different than what we know to be true today doesn't mean that that is reality. But I do think there's something that we can learn from this. And that's the last thing I want to leave you with today. And that's this. People are never an interruption. Full stop. People are never an interruption, ever. When Jesus came down from the mountain off of this big experience, I could have imagined a world where Peter and James and John and Jesus just rushed down the mountain. They were like, you would not believe this cool thing that just happened. Jesus was light and intense and all this stuff. But instead, Jesus took time to pay attention to the people who were around him, who were struggling. This is a weird text because it says that the guy said to Jesus, I took my son to the disciples and they couldn't do anything. Why can you do something? In fact, the disciples even ask him this question in the book of Mark when it tells the same story. And I want you to see what Jesus said as a response. Jesus replied, "This kind can be cast out only by prayer." And the interesting thing about this text to me is this, that when the followers were trying to figure out why Jesus was able to cast out this demon and they couldn't, Jesus said it was prayer. But in the text, it never says Jesus prayed. Maybe it's because the word that is used here for prayer doesn't mean a resuscitation of certain words. You see, the odd thing is that the word prayer in Greek, the word that Jesus would have used here for prayer, the way that they would have translated it, it doesn't mean reciting the right words. It actually doesn't describe words at all. It describes a place. It's entirely possible that what Jesus was saying was, you're already standing in the sacred place. You just don't recognize it yet. Because the person who's in front of you who needs something, that's the place. That's the prayer. This word that gets translated as prayer here, almost every other time that it gets used in the Bible, it's not talking about words, but it's talking about the temple where the prayer happened. Which I think is so interesting that Peter had wanted to build this tent because he thought worship had to happen in a place. And then Jesus says, it happens not in a place, but in a presence. In the Hebrew story, Jewish people would build a temple or a tabernacle where they could pray to God. They believed that God would be there. But when this happens, it's not a formalized temple, but God just meets them where they are. Maybe what Jesus was saying was that the reason that the disciples weren't able to help the person in front of them is because they didn't realize that when they were directly in front of the person with their own two hands, that they were literally in the presence of God. They were already there. They already saw love there. They were already good enough. They didn't have to build something. They already were enough. When they ran into someone who needed something, that is where love showed up. They didn't have to admire. They could just follow. Makes sense. Peter was wanting to build a place to worship when they were on top of the mountain because he thought it was a place. And Jesus said, But this individual who needed help, Jesus says, that is the presence. This right here is the place where God shows up. I'm not sure what that looks like for each one of us. I can tell you that for me, it sometimes looks like being very intentional about reaching out to people, right? There's a time in my calendar each week where it shows, make sure you text some people that you haven't seen lately. Just so I remember, because I will have a bad memory and I won't remember to do that, right? So just remembering, I need to text that person. I haven't talked to them in a few weeks. I haven't seen them. It's a reminder to me that the people that I see are never interruptions. Let me just be very honest with you. I know a lot of times people will say, like, hey Chris, I don't want to interrupt. You don't. You can't. You are never an interruption. You are the sole purpose. You are the reason that we do the things that we do here. The people who are in front of us are not interruptions ever. It's a reason that we do the things that we do. Look, I get that interruptions aren't fun. It's almost like we don't plan for them. But maybe that's the point. Interruptions are something that happen to all of us. But maybe it's the response to the interruptions that we face that matters the most. When the interruptions that we face, when we are tempted to revert back to the foo stuff and just to say something because we don't like the silence, my encouragement is, instead of just trying to fill the space with words, fill it with presence. Be there. See the person in front of you as the totality, just as they are. This series that we've been talking about for the last month has been about our global neighbor. Today's interruption reminds me and reminds hopefully all of us that the people in the world around us are not something that we need to manage. It's not just about managing the people around us, but rather they are the place that, if we're aware, can be the place where love shows up. So this week, whatever the interruptions are that happen to you, I hope that you will remember that people are not interruptions and that you are fully capable of being love to them right then and right there. Because in you, love is always bigger than your interruptions. And I hope that you take that with you this week, that you love the people that you see, that you allow them to be holy interruptions. All right? And with that said, I'm going to interrupt this train of thought and encourage us to move on to the next stage that we're going to be doing today. All right? I want to start by thanking our online audience for joining us. We really appreciate you joining us online today. With that said, there are a couple of things that